Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So if you're new here, hi, I'm Hannah. Thank you very much for joining me. And I've been meaning to film this one for so long now, but I want to come to you with spring sewing inspiration. So I've looked at sort of what the fashion trends are for this spring. Also, you know, there's fashion trends, but there's also things that you'll wear and it's getting the right balance between the two. But I've been looking at what's in the shops, and then I wanted to show you what's in the shops, what's in fashion, and how I'd recreate it in sewing patterns and fabric suggestions. Okay, so the first thing I've bought, most of this is from Zara, but this one is actually from Karen Millen, and this is one that I wanted to keep. So the first thing that I've bought is I've bought a satin midi skirt. So this one is bright pink. Bright colours are really in this spring, and that suits me. I've always suited a bright colour. I struggle with whites, but sort of like bold pinks, bold yellows, bold greens suit my skin tone much better. So it's a satin midi skirt. I'll show you it on in a minute. But what I have found is in fashion at the moment is an asymmetrical hemline. So this one dips at the front. Some people it might not be your cup of tea. Personally, I found when I'm wearing this, it's really flattering on sort of the lower legs and ankles, because sometimes midi length stuff can cut off at a bit of a weird point and it might not be as flattering as it could be. So I loved this for that. I love the colour. I thought that it would be really easy to style for everything basically. This is my new everything skirt, so I thought it would look great with, I've got a black crop top on at the moment, and I thought it would look really cute in spring, summer with that on, with either some sandals or some trainers or something like that on the bottom half, on my feet. But equally, I've already worn this to work with a black roll neck jumper tucked in and tights and heels, and it's done that really well. I thought it would look great with a white shirt underneath it, or more casually with a white shirt tied up and then the skirt on. Like, I thought this would look really lovely in a lot of situations, dressed up, dressed down. So I've got this skirt which I'll show you on. So as far as fabric, it is a satin crepe. So this was a higher price point piece coming from Karen Millen. It was around the £60 mark. It's made out of a crepe satin, so it's not 100% silk or anything like that, but it still feels a nice quality. It's got a little invisible zip in at the side, and then the skirt basically, it has a facing at the top, but otherwise it's just one thickness of fabric, no lining. The seams are French seamed. I'll show you that. See whether you can see that. So the seams are French seamed, but generally quite simple to do. I tried making, I tried making this style of skirt before Christmas, and the biggest mistake I made was trying to get something fitted out of a stretch or like a more delicate fabric. So if you want to see how not to do it, go watch that video. But I don't actually think to get this shape it would be that difficult. I think we just learned a lot of lessons in that video as far as not trying to overemphasize the womanly figure, because actually the fabric drapes really beautifully as it is. So patterns and fabric. So the pattern I'm going to suggest for this skirt is the McCall's sewing pattern 7931. I'm going to link everything down below so you can go and check out and see what I'm suggesting. But it's a very basic sort of satin midi skirt. It's got some different length options, and it comes high-waisted as well, which I much prefer something high-waisted. This is more of a high waist, or like a midi, like sits in the middle. What do you call that? Mid-rise. But I don't personally like anything low-waisted because I like my belly to be covered. But yeah, so that pattern is just a simple normal one. If you wanted to add the sort of asymmetric bottom, it would just be a matter of altering the pattern piece, because it's the front pattern piece of this that is altered there. So you could just add a little point to it and it should drape nicely. As far as fabric, I've got them all on my laptop, so you have to excuse me. I have suggested a satin crepe from Minerva. So it is coming in at £8.78 per metre. It's a Lady Lady McElroy crepe back satin fabric, and they do it in the shade Coral, which is beautiful. So very, very similar vibe to this, slightly different tone of colour, but still really, really bright and really, really like summery and spring like vibes. So yeah, that's the first one that I'd recommend. The next one I'm going to mention, again, is another trend that I've been wanting to buy for ages, and although I call it a trend and although it is in fashion at the moment, I don't really think it's been out of fashion in the last 5 years, and that is a cargo trouser. So again, these are something that I'm keeping, so they're a little bit creased because I've worn them quite a lot. But these were from Zara, and they've got just pockets on the side, pockets on the back, nice and simple. These are around sort of a mid-rise. You could sort of size up to get them like low waist or have them as a mid or a high waist. But yeah, they're just simple trousers in a nice sort of like, I'm going to say it's a twill fabric. It is 100% cotton. I checked the label of that. So it's 100% cotton. It's more of like a denim-y twill fabric, but it's not got loads of stretch because they're quite a loose fit. I got them in this gorgeous like sort of pinky neutral colour here. So I'll try those on and I'll show you to the side. But as far as pattern and fabric, so again, I looked at McCall's. They seem to be smashing it on patterns at the moment. So I've really enjoyed looking at some of their stuff for spring. So it's from McCall's Mrs. Pants M8206. So again, I'll link it all down below. And they're just a really simple cargo trouser pattern. They've got some different options, one with a cuff at the bottom of the trouser and then one more wide leg like this. I prefer the wide leg version, and again, you can style this with boots or like a heel, but equally like really, really casual with a pair of trainers, bodysuits, crop tops, all sorts. So I thought they'd be a really great one, especially for spring, but can also do sort of autumn and summer as well. Fabric wise, we have got, I've gone on Minerva again, generally because price point they're pretty good, and I've not had any issues with the fabrics that I've bought from them so far. It's a little bit one of those where there's so much choice, you need to kind of know what you're buying. But if in doubt, get some samples, and I've not had any issues. They're really quick on delivery, they're of a cheaper price point, which is a little bit more comparable to the stuff that you'll buy sort of on the high street. So yeah, there's always the option to do higher quality fabrics if it's something that you know you're going to wear a lot. But for this, I've gone Minerva. So for this one, it's Minerva Core Range, 280 GSM stretch washed denim fabric. So they had basically, in their denim fabric selection, they had lots of different colours. They have a colour very similar to this, which is called Fawn, but they have bolder colours, they have blues, they have greens. So go and check out what they've got. But I thought a denim will work really well because you know that it's going to be heavy enough, it's going to hang right, it's not going to be too light, and you shouldn't have too many issues with creasing. So I thought that would be a really good match for these. The next one that I looked at, again, it's from Zara, and it is a dress. So a couple of the trends that are in this season, one is sort of metallic fabrics. So I got this dress in this beautiful sort of satin, but it's of a silvery tone, which isn't something I'd normally go for, but I actually really liked this colour. And then the other thing that's really in fashion is a dress that's drapey. So I don't know if you'll have seen, there's lots of like cowl necks at the moment. They're really fantastic and very much in fashion, but also this sort of wrap style with the drapes and the ruching there. So this one was from Zara. I'll maybe try this on. It doesn't really fit very well, so I'll see whether I can try it on and be decent, but if you don't see this one, that is why. Again, it's definitely a satin. It's not lined or anything. It's got an invisible zip that sort of like comes under the armpit there. Let's have a look, see if we can find a label. Okay, so this one says it's 100% polyester, but yeah, As far as patterns though, I was quite pleased I found something very, very similar. So it's a Vicky Sews pattern, which I've not used before, but they're sold on Minerva, and it was the Sylvie dress. So that one is very, very similar in shape to this, but the only difference is it has a collar on it. So depending on whether you prefer the collar, don't prefer the collar, you could leave that off or attach it accordingly. But it was very, very similar, a nice sort of mini dress with exactly the same wraps. As far as fabric, I have gone back on Minerva again, because they do a lot of satins and a lot of colour variation. And I've looked at a Minerva Core Range Luxury Viscose Satin fabric. So they've got loads of colours in this. They've got very similar to this. They've got golds, they've got bright colours, they've got pinks, greens, purples, anything you could possibly want. And I think that would be absolutely fine. The joy also of Minerva is the fact that you can scroll down and look at what people have made. So you can see whether it's the sort of quality and finish that you'd want your garment to look like by what other people's look like. So I find that really, really helpful in actually choosing the fabrics. So that's another one that, especially if you have an occasion or a wedding or anything like that, it might be a really, really good spring make for you this year. The next one is more of a classic. So this is a blue and white striped shirt. Nothing particularly fancy about it. Sorry, sun's come out, so if lighting's all over the place, I apologise for that. But we're back to having good lighting in this room, so we're back to filming in here. So what was I saying? Yeah, an absolute classic, just a blue and white striped shirt. Nothing particularly fancy, nothing particularly like trend set, but they're everywhere. I went round Meadowhall because I had some spare time at uni, and literally every single shop I went to had a variation on a blue and white striped shirt. It's not something I actually have in my wardrobe at the moment. This one wasn't the perfect one, but I will be either investing or making a blue and white striped shirt. Obviously I'd love to make everything, but time is not endless, so we'll see what we get time to make this year. So that's this one. As far as patterns, I found a Vogue pattern, which was just very, very simple classic shirt, and that is Vogue V8689. Again, link down below. So that's probably the pattern I'd suggest, and then you can sort of alter it accordingly. It has different sleeve lengths. You can make it more oversized, you can make it more fitted, whatever you like. I personally like a shirt that fits really well on the shoulders, which is why I won't be keeping this one. I'll show you it on in a minute, or up on the side of the screen. But this one had slightly more oversized, like drapey shoulders, and it just didn't suit me as much as I know that more of a fitted shoulder will. So that's why I'm not keeping this one. But yeah, as far as patterns, you can choose what you want fit-wise. So that was the Vogue pattern I'd suggest. As far as fabric, again, I've gone back to Minerva, and generally if you put in cotton shirting fabric, you can choose anything that you fancy. There's a lot of Lady McElroy ones which are very, very nice. Some with like two colours, so it'll be a blue and a white stripe, but with a little hint of pink in them. Some more classic. Generally just choose what you fancy your blue shirt to be. As I say, there was different trends and different themes on what was in the shops. What's this made out of? This one is 55% cotton and 45% polyester. So yeah, if you're wanting slightly, maybe like higher quality, polyester's alright, but it's not as breathable as cotton can be. So if you want slightly higher quality, go for a 100% cotton fabric. If you're happy with something like this, then cotton polyester mix will be absolutely fine. But you can check what the fabrics are when you're having a look at them on the website. The next thing that is in fashion, and I thought would be so nice for spring, is a more of like a suit, but a shorts and a blazer suit. So I won't try this one on for you because it really did not fit. But from Zara, I got hold of this blazer. So it was quite a long line blazer to meet the shorts nicely. It's only a single breasted one, but really strong shoulder pads in this, and then it's in this gorgeous sort of like black check fabric. And then what they had were the matching shorts, which were very much not my size when I tried them on, hence I won't be trying on this for you. But they're just a simple pair. They've got a little pocket in there, they've got a normal sort of fly done up at the front. But yeah, this with like a crop top underneath, or even like you could smarten it up if you're doing an event or a wedding or something and put a shirt in with it. But generally just a really easy matching suit, lovely on holiday, lovely for weddings, lovely, just generally lovely for everything. And especially when it's hot but you might want to cover your shoulders, it's really easy to throw a blazer on. So these are in a check, but equally it would look gorgeous in like a bright pink, bright orange. Yeah, just really nice. Let's have a look at fabrics. Okay, so this is a cotton, polyester and acrylic blend. So it's not actually a wool fabric at all. You can tell on the quality it's not as nice as, for example, what I'm wearing now. What I'm wearing is much softer and just feels a lot nicer. But because this is a textures fabric, you can sort of get away with it. But I have found a really beautiful fabric that I'm going to suggest for you. So we'll start with patterns. The blazer pattern that I'd suggest is the Vogue Sewing pattern 1870. Again, it's just got that longer fit. It's a little bit more fitted than this one was. This is a great sewing pattern as well, which I can link below. It's the Arc one. But the only thing with this one was because it was Arc, the instructions were more difficult, but I have got a video on this. The Vogue one, Vogue's normally great for instructions, great for sizing. The actual fit and style of that blazer looks really great. On the front, normally the front of patterns don't inspire me at all, but on the front of this pattern she's wearing it in a bright yellow with some bright yellow trousers, and it looks amazing. So if you're more of a trouser person than a short person, still a very great one for spring, summer. As far as shorts, again I've gone for a Vogue pattern and I've gone for V9008. Just for a basic tailored short pattern. It's got a fly at the front. I don't think it's got pockets. It might have pockets. I can't tell. It might have pockets, it might not have pockets, but it's a fly at the front, waistband, high-waisted. Lots of different variations as far as length, as far as how like floaty out you want them. You can have them on pleats, without pleats. So I thought that would be a really great one for you to tailor exactly what suits your body shape and make the perfect matching pair of shorts. Fabrics wise, it's the first time we're steering away from Minerva and to one of my favourite fabric companies, which is Croft Mill. So there is a fabric called In All My Born Days, which very long title for a fabric, but it's this sort of a black and white with a little bit of red in it check pattern, but it looks a lot lighter than this, and it just looks beautiful, really beautiful. So it is 100% wool, and yeah, it's just a stunning fabric. I love that one. If I was going to make anything out of this, I would be making that suit in that fabric because I think it would be stunning. And equally, I love wearing a lot of black. I know I've said bright colours and all of that, but personally I feel comfortable in bright colours and black. And I think that a shorts suit with a black crop top underneath would look really lovely. So quite excited about the prospect of this one. One of my favourites of the bunch. So the last trend that I wanted to cover, or last sort of sewing inspiration, a little less spring, but it's a very easy piece to style up in spring because you're, especially British spring weather, it's still very cold, so you're wanting to feel a bit more summery, you're wanting to wear sort of like more summery pieces, but you still need your shoulders and your arms covering. So the last thing I'm going to say is a leather jacket. So when I was looking at what's in fashion, biker style things were really in fashion, and all over the catwalks when they were looking at sort of spring fashion week. So this isn't a new piece by any means. This is one that I've had for years, but it's like the most biker style leather fashion jacket you can get. It's got applique down the arms, it's got loads of sort of like pockets and zip details, it's got sort of shoulder details and shoulder pads in it, it's got embroidery on the arm. It's a really, really beautiful leather jacket. This one is like real leather, but it's something that I'd love to know if anybody knows a really good way to buy real leather. I don't know what I'm buying and I don't know where to look, so I'm going to recommend a faux leather off Minerva, very similar to what I've used before on sort of the coat and the leather trousers. But if anybody does have any suggestions as far as making leather products, where to get your leather from, and what to buy, then I'd love to know. It's something that I'd love to learn about, because I don't have the confidence in. But as far as sewing patterns, I'm going to suggest a style arc sewing pattern. Yes, they're difficult to follow. No, they're not impossible. And there's plenty of videos out there for other people that have made them. And if it was something that you really wanted to see, then give us a shout and I'll have a look. But the one that I'm going to suggest is the Ziggy Jacket style arc pattern, available on Minerva, and it's just that sort of biker style, lots of panels. It gives a crossover zip up, which is the same as this one. Doing that the wrong way. So yeah, I think that would look really, really good as the base, and then you can always add the things like the applique at the arms and make it that more biker style. As far as fabrics, I would suggest the textured faux leather fabric from Minerva. I'd go for black personally, because that's a colour that I find really easy to style up, especially with denim and bold colours and stuff like that. But if you're more of a browns person, equally you could do it in a brown. But yeah, I'd do the base in black, but I love this jacket for the fact it's got extra details and I've never seen anybody else in something like it. So I think that by making your own you could do something very, very similar and get a really statement piece that you can wear all the time. So I hope you've really enjoyed this video. I hope I've given you some inspiration as to what to make. Everything will be linked down below, and if you enjoyed it, then I'd love you to comment and press the like and subscribe buttons. It means a heck of a lot when anybody does. So yeah, I'll love you and leave you and see you all in the next one. Bye.